So maybe let's get started and people will join as we go. Um, hey, Suli, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you, Sam, for this. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. I know that there's lots going on where you are, so thanks for making the time. And I was looking forward to seeing you in Ramallah next month or the month after. And so this is, I guess the good news is that we're seeing each other a little sooner than we'd planned.
Yeah. Thank you.
Um, so let's just start with an overview with the basics. How are you? How is Ramallah? And what does the situation look like?
Thank you, Sam, and for this initiative. Uh, so people hear me actually, just to make sure that technical works. Ah, okay. Thank you. And some faces I'm familiar with, so sending really excited to see you all. We've been talking, Sam and me, that aside of Corona atmosphere, we've been using the Zoom as our main channel of communication. Uh, So I'm talking to you from Ramallah, assuming some of you, I know that some of you have been here before, in extend trip or other trips actually. And also, I guess no need maybe to introduce myself because you've seen it maybe in the invitation and some of you have met me before. And this is my first conversation that really public, let's say, that include Corona, since I'm not expert of this, of any kind. But I did follow the news today to give some information how things working right now in the Palestinian territory, generally during the Corona time. Um, so just to give you, like personally, I was at in Beit Jala. I guess some people knows where Beit Jala, next to Bethlehem. Uh, Almost 20 days ago, something like that. And that was before the Corona crisis in the Holy Land, let's say. Um, so me and other three friends, which one of them Israeli, one from Germany, one from other country in Europe, we visited a friend of mine and us, Antoine, maybe some of you even knows him. Antoine Saka is also another activist from Holy Land Trust and other huts. And we meet other guy at his place. And 2 days later, after the nonviolence communication seminar, we had around 80 people, some from America, from Europe, from Canada, from Israelis, Palestinians. Towards the end of the seminar, Antoine called me and said, we have to be tested because this guy that was at his place has a coronavirus. So we did the test, myself and other friend, and it was negative. Thanks God for now. And yeah, so since then I'm also in quarantine actually since like 2 weeks and 3 days, maybe more, basically at home. And but it was not restricted the situation. Like a few days ago, the Palestinian government declared a curfew in every city in Area A. So we'll talk, I guess, about the differences a little bit, assuming the folks here knows about Area A, Area B, Area C, because that's also a big challenge we can talk about tonight of Area C. So let's say in Area A, like Ramallah where I live now, you can't basically, you can leave the house just to get medical service or food. And with that said, actually, you might have problems because there is a Palestinian police like all over the city telling people to go home. It's not easy because of the Palestinian experience with curfew. And this is the first time that it's a self-curfew. And then the word curfew here means like, Israeli army. That's what we used to. Intifada, Israeli army. And you find a way to sneak and where the little roads. I was asking a friend, he worked in the Palestinian security. I told him I really like to go to the desert. So how can is there any exit from the city? Because I thought they will not close everything. Like they will not know even every little road. And he said, every little exit from Allah is closed. So the difference during the Israeli time, like you will always find some exit that they don't know about it between the houses or something. Anyway, but this really bring like the collective trauma and history of the conflict, and that's maybe a little bit the difference between here and other normal places. The curfew is maybe new for some people, uh, somewhere in many people actually around the world. For us and my generation, I'm 47, so this is something we have been experienced that a few times before in different situations, of course, different circumstances. If you leave the house, you can be killed or something. That's a different situation than now. Um, anyway, so far as I know, there is like there is not enough medical services or hospitals or beds or what you. I need your help with English, Sam. The thing for the breathing
Masks.
mask and like the breathing oxygen thing in
Oh,
the hospital.
sorry. The
Also the masks.
everyone knows
Respirators.
respirator.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. That one is hard for me to say it. So as far like I heard lately, there's really just like maybe 90 of them in all West Bank, and I think similar or less number in Gaza. That's what I heard a few days ago, and not so many people knows about it because we never really thought about this. So I think the main thing that the Palestinian local government could do is really doing a prevention in advance, is like making steps of preventing people of leaving the city to other towns from villages or refugee camps to come to the cities. This is very was like many people feel it's successful steps they did already before the coronavirus spread everywhere. So just to give you a little bit background, 2 weeks ago, that's what I told you. We were at the nonviolence communication course in Talita Kum in Beit Jala. There was a Greek group, a tourist in Bethlehem. And that's where the corona started. Just 2 weeks ago, like 16 days ago, they were in Bethlehem and they stayed in some hotel. And this 7 tourist group from Spain, from Greece, they were carrying corona, and the driver was Palestinian driver from East Jerusalem. He got coronavirus also, and this group, and they were staying in Angel Hotel in Beit Jala, and they were discovered, and everybody was working in this hotel or related to this group or met this group has been tested or stayed in the hotel. So the hotel was the main story here, the beginning of the story. And since then, Bethlehem was the main area actually, because it's the main touristic place. So other areas have no really like big impact of corona, except this is one way how corona came here. The second way, there were a few Palestinian students or travelers, like the last one, even yesterday, she's Palestinian American, she came yesterday to Ramallah and she carried corona, and somewhere in Germany, where in Italy. So they did take a few measurements, the Palestinian Authority, to ask people that coming from outside to be in quarantine. And some now, the latest one, we will talk about it more, the hot subject is the workers, the Palestinian workers inside Israel. This is where like they're a big challenge. They don't know what to do with that because of the financial need also. So we'll talk about the political and financial situation for this specific community. The workers are really in the hardest situation, both exposed for corona. They 75,000, I think the number, they now stayed inside Israel. If the owner of the business like can find them place to sleep, which is usually not a human conditions. And there were a few cases in the last 2-3 days, unfortunately, has been feeling favored or something, and basically the army take them to the West Bank, to the checkpoints, and put them behind the Israeli checkpoint. So there is 3 cases already, like 3-4 cases. So many people talk about it now. This is the hardest part. But overall, we have 60, as I heard the governmental spokesman today, we have 64 cases in the West Bank and Gaza, four of them in Gaza. And one woman died today, unfortunately. She's 60 years old. Her son was working in Israel and he came back with coronavirus and affected his mom. From a village between Ramallah and Jerusalem, not far from here. That's the first corona case, unfortunately. Other than that, I guess there is a lot of anxiety and fear. People are afraid because of, first month, people can manage also with money, with food, with things, but we'll see for the next months, people are scared. I guess where you are, everywhere have similar situation in a different way. Yeah.
Suli, can I ask, you were speaking first, thanks for such a great overview. And for those who are just joining us, thanks for being a part of this. And Suli, thanks so much for joining. And I was so excited to see you. I started asking questions without giving a proper introduction. Suli was a co-founder of Combatants for Peace and worked with the organization for many, many years, amongst a large number of other initiatives. And I think one of the things that I admire so much about Suli is that he's just such an imaginative and creative activist. And one of the things I want to talk to you in a little bit about is how we can keep going with the work that matters to us under these conditions. You were mentioning with Area A, B, and C, I think a lot of us here in the States are worried about who's making decisions and not particularly pleased with the president we have making decisions. I'm curious, for you in the West Bank, what's the balance between Israel making decisions, the Palestinian Authority, what's going on, and sort of the differences between Area A, B, and C, and I'm curious how that feels, and what the sense of sort of who's in control.
So in general, the big picture, as a matter of fact, the Israeli government / the army are in charge of the whole place, of course, from the river to the sea. That's generally. The Palestinian Authority control relatively Area A, which is mainly the Palestinian cities, Ramallah, Bethlehem, Jericho, Jenin, Nablus, Hebron, and these cities. And for the first time, actually, many people, myself included, are not fan of the Palestinian Authority, but truthfully, the last few weeks, the Palestinian Authority got a lot of credit for the preparation for Corona, because they did take steps and decisions earlier before the Corona spread around the place. So basically, Area B and C specifically, if we talk about Area C, which is 60-something% of the West Bank, where many villages, they're like my family, live in Hizma next to Jerusalem. That's more challenging because the Palestinian Authority, for example, the security forces can't go there, the police. So there is really worry from violence and criminal situations that can happen in these areas, which is like no man's land. So, for example, between Ramallah and Kalandia checkpoint, the main checkpoint between Jerusalem and Ramallah, this area basically have no police of whatsoever, of any kind. There is no police, no Israelis there, and the Palestinian police are not allowed to go there by the agreement. So these areas actually are more like in danger and exposed for many problems with food, with medical supplies, with maybe criminal activities, which is not happening yet as far as I know, but it could happen sooner than Area A. Area A is totally safe and clean, and there is more like services, and there is more Palestinian police everywhere, so people feel totally safe. In Area C, there is also challenges with settlers. We've seen even today, I've seen in some of my Israeli friends pictures of settlers attacking Palestinians, actually shepherd as usual in Jordan Valley specifically, and other places in Area C, some villages around Nablus. There is even expanding of some illegal settlements to use the Corona time, unfortunately. And also, like the decisions that have been taken lately before, like at the beginning of Corona, of closer to around the West Bank, it doesn't include the settlers, basically. And this is very important to mention, that the dealing with Corona have also political element here, unfortunately. For example, I have permit to go to Jerusalem, but I can't go now because of the Corona, under Corona excuse. But Israeli settler live in West Bank, yes, can go to Jerusalem. This is a very important thing to note that. So the decisions are not for the whole population that live in this area. It differentiates between if you are Israeli or not. With that said, there is also some conversations about cooperation between the Palestinian health minister and the Israeli one. So just to mention the reality, because like honest conversation, and I heard of that also because I follow Hebrew and Arabic news, so it's a bit easy for me to see what's happening. Uh, and there is like yeah, we heard like a good positive cooperation in that direction. And of course, the question is like, how can we turn this from like fear and mistrust to trust and working together? This is a big question. We have to wait and see and maybe push um, the ideas that, you know, unfortunately needed a coronavirus or something bad to happen that many people will realize we are not protected. We should be working together anyway without having this virus. I can talk about the organizations maybe later, Sam, or now what you want? I can talk
Yeah,
about
we could talk. Yeah, we could absolutely. Let's talk about it now.
yeah. So for the organizations, I'm talking about generally, including Combatants for Peace, one of the organizations I am part of, but I also the general organizations that work across borders. So physically, there is no events at all in the ground since the corona started. Uh, so the few organizations that work together across the divide, we start using Zoom. So that's why I was telling Sam, I like all my evenings now, honestly, on the Zoom. So last night we had a meeting just to mention for the steering committee of Combatants for Peace, which included maybe 30, 40 people from everywhere, like really from Tel Aviv to Haifa to Ramallah to Tulkarem refugee camp, the Hesha refugee camp in Bethlehem, Hebron, um, from like all over the country almost. And it was our first meeting because we are preparing the Memorial Day ceremony, which is very importantly, I want to highlight it now. So we had already the Facebook page. I don't know if everybody here live in the US, which you can also be in touch with American Friends of Combatants for Peace with Beth Sherman. She's actually on the call, but without the video because she's working and she's in New York. So you can definitely be in touch with her and watch like our Facebook and the website of American Friends of Combatants for Peace, because we decided for the first time after like 15 years, we decided to do like a broadcasting ceremony. So this is a new challenge for us because we are used to do action on the ground. And this is the biggest event ever. For the first years, we used to have 70 people, 100 people, 200 people. Last year, we hosted 9,000 people in the event in Tel Aviv. And we broadcasted also with translation. So we had 50,000 people watching around the world. And we did actually other events in New York, in San Francisco, in Berlin, some places. Also, we had speakers from Gaza, from a few places. So this year we had decided to keep the two options. First option is like broadcasting online. And the second option, if life change all of a sudden, next month we will decide, we will go back to the real ceremony because we were working to have 10,000 people. So I would really advise you to watch it and be in touch about it if you want to, you know, participate or support. We have a crowdfunding soon about it. We have it in Hebrew, but soon it will be in English because it's this cost basically like half of more than Combatants will be budget every year. Not to turn this into fundraising, but this is really a big need for us. Like 750,000 shekel. Like can't translate it in dollar now in my mind, but I'm not good with money. But it's basically our biggest event every year. and it moved a lot of people. And we thought that maybe now, because of Corona specifically, to turn this into opportunity to reach out much more people through online, because people at home. So will definitely cost different cost because it's online, but of course we want to make sure the online work very well. So we'll have to work the technology through companies and all of that. So this is the
Uh,
direction. And for every other event, basically we try to reorganize now to do things on Zoom, um, using the technology now to show solidarity, unity, and different message during the Corona time, including also showing that the system is still in place, which is very important to mention. As you have in the US and here and many places, we really try together with every other organizations and activists, maybe it will take time, but maybe this is opportunity, and that's personally my feeling around Corona. uh, is the opportunity really to rethink about the system that we live in, and how do we want to live individually as a communities and across the world. And it seems, um, yeah, we kind of need to breathe in and think and go a little bit in a deeper inward journey for this opportunity. Unfortunately, we have to pay the price maybe for some of our beloved one. Unfortunately, and it's not easy. Some people suffering, and we know some people maybe don't have this privilege of having Zoom or internet or space, even, or medicine or food. We also have to remember that. But anyway, so this is the big picture about the organizations, and you can also invite people tomorrow. We have a big event. If Sam, I can advertise that, Beth will
Send
be
it to me.
happy.
Yeah, please, please.
Yeah, so we have it tomorrow. I don't remember the timing between me and New York, but in Facebook, in American Friends of Combatants for Peace, you can see the event. Tomorrow will be with me, Galia Galili, my Israeli colleague, will be talking to you. She will be talking from Tel Aviv. I'm from here to talk about like also the situation during Corona and the activism
And
world.
Suli, we're getting some questions here in the sidebar.
Oh, I,
And so Peter asks, how prepared is the West Bank health system for a corona outbreak?
mm. So, as I said, I'm no expert of health issues, but what so far as I know from friends, from what I'm reading, the Palestinian health system is weak in generally, not just on corona, and generally. And we don't have a state, and of course, it's not. Uh, there is no enough like facilities, hospitals, or beds, or like different. And also a lot getting any donation of like health supplies from the world. Um, so my feeling, my understanding that the Palestinian Health Ministry is not ready to have a crisis around Corona, except if we are talking about small amount of people. And that's the reason actually, as far as I know from friends that work in our Palestinian government, since they are not ready, so what they did is to do the quarantine decisions, the curfew. And it might be a smart decision. They did it really in advance. And actually, the Palestinian Prime Minister got a lot of credit around that, actually. And the Palestinian Health Minister, she's from Bethlehem herself, Mike Hele, and they really got, they are doctors themselves, and they really got a lot of credit around that. Uh, People worry if there is more like cases, then the people will suffer a lot because there is no really like health supplies to or enough like human resources or doctors. It's not definitely far away from enough. And for if we talk about corona, or even if we talk about normal diseases that happen daily, so I guess the main option for people is really prevention. And many people I know like started going back. If we go to the local culture, there is a lot of which is also a question, but I'm one of the people that following this, basically using herbs, local herbs, that our families like have their collective memory of corona, of quarantine. And I was just reading article in Arabic today, I researched that quarantine, the word exists in our dialect for 700 years. And there is places called quarantine in Hebron, in near Jericho, in every city that used to exist during the Ottomanic era and even before. So the memory, the collective memory of quarantine is not strange for here. And there is also religious, Islamic, Christian, Jewish, heritage around that. And yeah, there was article today in New York Times on Muhammad, how he dealt with, I don't know the word in English, like not corona, like viruses, like big viruses. So there is a really, if I can find it when we talk, I will share it with you in the chat. Kind of interesting about that. So the collective memory and religion and the herbs and the local knowledge is very helpful. And that's what we're using, not really just the modern style. Like I got tested personally, but since then, my mom sent me all kinds of herbs from my village, which is very helpful. I feel much better. My immune system personally, and many people, yeah.
So there's a related question here about Unrwa, and can you talk a little bit? I mean, there have been these big cuts under the Trump administration, cuts in all sorts of aid that have affected both East Jerusalem and the West Bank. Can you talk about that, how it's impacted the health system even before the corona outbreak?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. The U.S. used to put money on the UNRWA, the Palestinian refugee department in the UN. Specifically, the challenge more in Gaza, which is mostly refugees, and also in refugee camps in West Bank and Lebanon and in other places. But I would maybe highlight the one in Gaza and the one in Lebanon. I saw reports today from the Palestinian refugees in Lebanon. For example, one refugee camp have 100,000 people, Ain Hilwe, the name, and basically 100,000 people live in 1 square meter. So there is no way in the earth that they can have a 2 meters like social distance or medical supplies. And the UNRWA spokesman in Gaza, I also listened to him yesterday and today. He's like really complaining about the cut of support and money and supplies. So they really have a big challenges. Fortunately, so far as we know, they have just 4 cases in Gaza. But as I heard, even Israeli like expert, Gaza will be the worst place if the coronavirus spread in Gaza. It's a very small place with 2 million people, with the siege in Gaza for the last 15 years, and so it will be a big challenge for. It will be a big risk actually for the population there to face the corona virus. So people are really concerned about specifically refugees in Gaza and Lebanon specifically, and other elsewhere in Jordan also, which they already decided to do a curfew as well, because again, we talk about similar problems of poor country. Um, so I guess, unfortunately, the political system that was in place already is together, like getting now, like we talked before, some people want to use the opportunity of Corona make like rethink the way we want to create a different world, to change a different world, more fair, more justice world. And while the system, I'm not talking about individuals because I really believe in goodness in people, the system is using the opportunity for more harm and fear and spreading fear and racism. Unfortunately, of course, there is always exceptional situation. I guess like the atmosphere in generally, the language that we hear lately, there is really also, I would say, a lot of solidarity action coming from individuals everywhere. As you can see, maybe in your own countries, I believe you have it. I also watch American alternative media, and I guess we can see a lot of like really solidarity between people, like especially around food and supplies of food and medicine for now. So I hope this will continue. So we're not yet in a dangerous place. Of course, people have a lot of fear. If this situation continue, like in a few weeks, then we will be in a different place, like especially around, as far as I know, the Israeli government passed $25 million to the Palestinian Authority last week because they used to cut the money from the tax deduction that they do. And they stopped this money since like a year ago or something. We are talking about millions, hundreds of millions. So they just pass them some of it so they don't collapse. So the Palestinian Authority doesn't collapse. So this is one of the issues that the Palestinian Authority, even if they want to buy supplies for hospitals and to support people at home, specifically the workers now, that's a big issue here now, really a big issue, the workers that work in Israel, they don't have the resources basically. And if Israel decide to release the money that the Palestinian, that it's Palestinian money from the tax, they cut it from the tax, this will be a big step to, as a practical solution for the coming a few months, specifically for workers. And just to highlight the workers issue, because like there is more coronavirus in Israel. Like there are a few, there is like, I can't remember the number now, but like it's much higher than here because many people were traveling. So some Palestinians have a lot of fear that the workers come back from Israel with coronavirus. So the arrangements right now is they stay in their working place for the next weeks or 2 months even. And so that few workers that came back, either came back with some symptoms or they have the coronavirus. And this has scared a lot of people. And the problem is, like, if these people don't go to work, they don't have income. So there is a lot of talks about this. This is very important, like, because it concerned like maybe 200,000 families we're talking about.
And so to be clear, those are Palestinian laborers who travel into Israel and work every day, and now they're being forced to choose either stay home and don't have income or stay away from your family in Israel.
Like in Palestinian social media, I see a lot of conversation, people saying to them, life is more important than where, go back to your family. And at the same time, these people, if they sit home, they don't have any, food for their families. It's a big dilemma here. Yeah, and the Palestinian Authority did call them last night. They gave a call for them to go back. At the same time, they didn't give like a solution for their need. So it's a bit of challenge, and they're afraid to lose their jobs because they don't have really a normal Israeli worker rights. It's not the same. We're talking about cheap working labor, basically.
And what about Palestinians who work in Israeli settlements?
So that is including, actually, what we said, the people that work inside Israel or in settlement, same situation. There was a decision 2 days ago by the Palestinian Prime Minister that work in settlements is not allowed right now, but it's in Area C, they can't really practice any of this decision anyway.
Okay, so we've got a bunch more questions coming in. Let's see here. I'd rather have folks ask their questions. Farid, do you want to take your mic off mute for a second and ask your question?
All right. I'm just curious as to whether the schools are still open in the West Bank, and also there's 2 universities in Gaza. Are those universities still functioning?
Thank you, Farid. Everything closed, like every community center, schools, universities, mosques, church, what else people gather, it's all closed. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Robert, you wanted to ask a question about unemployment stipends? Oh, Robert, you're on mute. Take yourself off mute there. Maybe I can do it.
My bad. I got it. Sully,
nice to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too. Sully, I wanted to ask, in your opinion, what do you think the probability is that the PLO or Israel will provide unemployment stipends for people who appreciate accurately the situation and want to stay at home and self-quarantine.
Yeah, so basically the money actually exists. If they want to do that, it's not even a favor because the worker tax cut by the Israelis. That's the agreement, Oslo agreement. They cut the tax and then Israel have to pass the money to the Palestinian Authority. That's the typical arrangements. So as far as I know, I don't know the amount exactly of the number, but lately, every day, the Palestinian government spokesman is speaking about this as one of the solutions. If this money, because it exists, it's there. If they transform this money to the Palestinian Authority and then they can give support to the workers and to the employment people. So there is a lot of really conversations about this in public places, in social media, in the press conference every day. The spokesman of the Palestinian government, journalists are asking them, is just the same question, specifically when we talk about workers, because this cover a huge Palestinian community. Actually, this really, together with the Palestinian that work for the Palestinian government, which their salary is still in place, so this can be a good solution for like the coming a few months, I believe.
Suli, let me ask an optimistic question. I think what so many people find inspiring in Combatants for Peace is work is that it's about coming together around mutual loss and mutual pain and trying to work through that without delegitimizing the others' experience to see what we share and what's possible. And I'm curious for you, what's the best case? What do you hope Israelis and Palestinians recognize about each other going through this shared crisis?
Sorry, I still have some cough also, but not corona. So my feeling from my experience in Combatants for Peace and other joint shared spaces, which is a few, just to put it in the context, really like the personal connection even is really highly important. Like I can give you example yesterday when we had the Zoom for Combatants for Peace, like this time, and we'll have one next week. Of course, the committees like meet always in Zoom, but we are talking about the big steering committee. So because some people didn't see each other for a long time, there was a lot of, like first really a personal, like a warmth of the connection. And that's really feel just very simply, doesn't matter if you are Israeli or Palestinian in that level. Totally, like I talk to my friends, Chen or Maya or Abner, like I talk to my family, like just the same. We talk to each other all the time. We text each other because we know each other families and we have known each other for years. So of course, developing this relation is centrally important in my experience. And in hope this will impact the big picture, of course, not just to feel good individually. We recognize the in-power imbalance, and that's very important. And the needs of both sides, which is different in different timing. I guess what we're trying to create, and maybe it's early to say for the corona crisis, it's really early to say that how if we could turn a little bit this crisis into opportunity using social media of communication between Israelis and Palestinians. And maybe, like there were some Israeli writing for Israelis, look at Gaza, 15 years of quarantine anyway, or look at Palestinian, this happened to them like before. So it's maybe, not to say that we are happy with this happening now, but it's maybe there is opportunity. Of course, some people will not see and would not try to see the reality, but maybe there is opportunity for us. We decided to do a few steps, for example, to screen a movie for people at homes now, like Disturbing the Peace. Maybe some of you seen it, I believe. It's on Netflix, so people can watch it and we speak to them after the movie, for example. We have the Memorial Day. We have other like using social media to create more awareness. We will create also a few little movies, like 1 minute quick movies about what's happening here to do education. Because all the lectures and the meetings that we used to do that always have one Palestinian, one Israeli telling personal stories, stop in reality. So by next week, we try to start again using Zoom again. So I guess we are not a big movement, just to be honest. While we basically, especially in the hard times, like during wars and during Corona now, which is another war, is really showing the shared humanity and to humanize the other side, which is not obvious for many people. And to play the model for the vision for hope for different times here. And this has become so important now more than ever, actually, since we all in a similar conditions in a way or another. It seems to me there is a big opportunity of really strengthen our beliefs of shared humanity across the border and the importance of life over sicknesses and death in both sides and everywhere. And maybe also like to add some elements that were not so much in the focus of the activist scene, which is, for example, the environmental part of our life, the food system, and like, let me say this, the capitalistic system that we live, including in Ramallah, obviously in Tel Aviv, and then wherever you are now, it's opportunity really to revive how we live. Like, this is not stable life, it's not healthy. Also about community, to have the community around us, for example, in this modern life. I feel I'm always optimistic, so don't maybe believe me 100%. You have your own feelings, but I'm usually optimistic person. And my background jail, we've been, like I was telling a friend, like the quarantine time reminded me of one thing: the hunger strike in jail, because that time became so slow. You are alone almost, with differences, because it was jail and we have no food. We just drink water and salt. But there's some similarities, I would say, of a few people have to be in a higher spirit of keeping hope, even in the worst moments, in the dark time. And I guess Combatants for Peace and some groups, they just represent that for our population.
So if I can take that, run with that, for those who want to be part of what Combatants for Peace is building, I just want to reiterate what Suli was saying before about the joint memorial that will be online this year. If you're on the Extend email list, you'll definitely get an email about this in the next few days. This year, Extend will be an American co-host of the event. This is a really important event and ceremony for mutually recognizing Israeli and Palestinian loss and also trying to imagine a way forward. And for Suli's being very modest when he says it's a small event. For anyone who doesn't think this is an impactful event, the last few years the Netanyahu government has gone to great lengths to try to prevent the memorial taking place in Tel Aviv. Esti's asking what's the date of the event. Suli, it's April 27th. 27th.
I would suggest maybe Sam later you can send them the link so they can just you can talk to Beth or I can connect you and arrange it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the email will go out. You mentioned your experience in prison, and I want to ask you, there have been conversations in the US. I think New Jersey already released certain prisoners, and as we all know, there are a large number of Palestinian minors in Israeli prisons. Has there been any conversation about, of course, these are people who are exposed even more than everyone else to health risks. Is that an ongoing conversation, especially around the children?
Yeah, so yes, there is a big demand from like many Palestinians, from the Palestinian government. They're talking about it now more than before, requesting the Israeli government to release specifically 3-4 categories, which is the kids. We are talking about 400 kids, like 12 years old, 13, 14, 15. We are talking about the elder people, like over 65 years old, for example, and people that have sicknesses, and administrative detention category, which people without court. So this specifically, there is a lot of demands now. We talked about it yesterday to even join a campaign for that in Combatants for Peace. There's some Israeli also human rights organizations talking about that. So there is a lot of conversations, because we've seen even Iran like released 70,000 prisoners in Italy, in other places, because this is very dangerous place like for people to be right now. And that will be not even making a favor for people to release them from jail right now, especially elders and kids and sick people. It's good for like the reputation of the country and for everything. So this will make good actually to release the prisoners in generally and specifically these groups. So there is need of pressure maybe to happen within Israel from different organizations and from the outside for this to happen.
So I also wanted to ask, are there NGOs or medical organizations that if people want to help those on the ground that they can donate to? Are there particular organizations, civil society groups that are taking the lead?
So I like, I can like, you know, I don't want to make a, okay, there are a few organizations that I would say are respectful organizations that you definitely can support them, like Bet Salem, for example, that have Palestinian and Israelis as well. Yesh Din, also, it's one of the greatest organizations that doing human rights work here. Could be best getting weird, but the link is correct. Okay, I can't read the link now, but I will try. So there are a bunch of organizations. If anybody like interested to, you know, get involved or support, I'm happy to, you know, direct you to whichever direction you want to go, different organizations. Yeah.
Do others have questions that we haven't gotten to for Suli?
Yeah, I might have a question for people here. Just want to. Yeah.
Please.
Okay. So can you name list also Palestinian or Israeli mutual aid organizations? Mahsoum Watch, like Checkpoint Watch. Yeah, of course. So these organizations are not aid organizations, just to be clear. This is like more human rights organizations, the one I mentioned. But they definitely deserve support and acknowledgement. Yeah. No, I like was hoping that you know, people just say their name, where they are right now, and how they're feeling. Yeah. If if we have time, I don't know. You decide.
Yeah, absolutely. Who would like to start there?
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm calling from Spain, where I am self-quarantining also, and I'm feeling busy because I'm taking notes on Suli's talk so that we can all have it later, so we don't forget anything he said.
Thank you, Julia. Thank
you. Maybe I'll just list the names that go across my screen. So Maya's next.
Oh, hi, I'm Maya. I'm in Boston. I'm super jet lagged because I just got back from Thailand where I was studying abroad. Yeah, I'm just trying to like figure out what's going on in the world.
Robert.
Hey, I'm Robert. I am in DC right now, feeling fine, but very worried about my parents who are in Manhattan. Kind of scary there. Every time they go to the supermarket, they describe the experience like metaphorically the Hurt Locker, that movie. My mom started sanitizing the fruit that she bought, but maybe maybe that's a good thing.
I think Aaron's next.
Hi, I'm Harry. I'm in Westchester, New York. I'm a member of JVP. Looking to keep my family safe. My son is coming from New Orleans, another troubled area. And so we're staying in place. We're going to quarantine my son when he gets here. I'm a school teacher, so I'm busy teaching remotely.
Mm.
Howard?
Hi, I'm Howard Horowitz. I'm in New Rochelle, New York. We used to be an epicenter of the breakout, but we've been superseded by other places. This was a great meeting to attend. Been concerned of what's happening in Palestine and in Israel, both people-wise and also movement-wise. And I sort of still stand by my question for Sully as to, opposed to human rights organizations, the actual mutual aid organizations that might need our support on the ground that are delivering food, medicine, or keeping people separated or doing things for each other in Palestine.
I just want to add before we move on. So this conversation was very much focused on the occupied Palestinian territories and the situation there. Next week, we're going to have a briefing with Breaking the Silence, specifically on what's happening in Israeli politics. And as those of us, as you followed it, as you know, it's been quite the week in Israeli politics, with Haaretz describing the Knesset in a constitutional crisis. So we're going to have a discussion focused specifically on that next week. And maybe I'll take the opportunity to say that we'll continue having conversations like this. This is very much the first. Julia and myself are working on rolling out a reading group and also a few other conversational groups. So stay tuned. Just wanted to sneak that in there. But we can continue to go around and introduce ourselves. I think Leslie's next.
Hi, I'm here in New York City in Manhattan. Been very fortunate to be basically able to just stay home except to go out for exercise. And I really thank you, Sam and Suli, for doing this, because it's an amazing way to expand the world and to know what's going on in different places. So I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. Alex is next.
Hey everyone, my name is Alex. I'm a current graduate student at Harvard studying international development. Currently based in Chicago, taking courses online, but have been tracking responses all over the world. I've also previously worked as a journalist, also looking for ways to enhance how different countries are responding to this and to gain more media attraction.
Great. Diane is next.
Unmute. Diane needs to unmute.
Hey, Diane, can you hear us? Hey, Diane, can you hear us? Okay, we might circle back. Peter.
Sorry, I'm Peter Fry. I really live in New York, but right now I'm luckily in Miami, where it is warm and sunny and a lot more relaxed than New York City. I'm a board member of J Street, and I'm very involved with NIF and with Jewish Current, and a huge fan of Sam and Extend, and of Combatants for Peace, of course, too.
Yeah, thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter. Regina's next.
Unmute.
I'm Regina Sandler Phillips, and I'm a supporter of Extend and Combatants for Peace, and Circle Families Forum, Bisha, involved in supporting the Israeli-Palestinian Memorial Day satellite ceremony in New York City the past few years. My efforts to do that this year. hard managing in quarantine, which has lifted officially. I am blessedly healthy. I'm going to go out for the first time in a few days, and very grateful for the gift of life, and I'm grateful for all of you here. Thank you, Suli. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Thanks, Regina. I think Esti's next.
Hi, I'm Esty. I'm in Los Angeles. I am a board member of JVP, and I also host a radio show on KPFK called Middle East in Focus. So I'm really grateful for this, and I will look at, hopefully we're going to be able to stay on the air. There's some talk at the station about maybe not letting us come into our shows. But if there is, I would love to be able to cover a show, let people know about that joint event, the memorial event. So.
Great. Thanks, Esti. Taha?
Hi everyone. My name is Taha. I am Palestinian. I am manage program for distribution food for Palestinian refugees in West Bank. So I welcome everyone. Hi.
Taha, can you tell us a little bit about the food distribution issues that you're working with now?
Yeah, we are now working with the 3 area, with the Jerusalem area and Hebron and Nablus, distribution food for refugees and Bedouin who live in area C. That the program is run now. We are in the middle, in the last of April. We'll finish the first round in 2020.
And can you tell us a little bit about what is the sort of food distribution? What's the situation in the West Bank? Is there a sense that there's enough food? Are there worries about shortages?
About the foods, we distribution basic food, basic commodity food like rice, wheat flour, oil, lentils, cheese, peas. The food is necessary for people because the coronavirus in the middle of the city. So we are the authority of Palestine closed the center city. So people in around the city don't have access to the center city to buy this thing. So this distribution is very important to people and waiting this food because it's necessary to come live and be.
And Taha, let me just ask the same question I asked Suli, which is, are there organizations working in either food or health that people can donate to if they want to help?
Yeah, we need many help. Like I am working on UNRWA. UNRWA have a fund cut by United States, so we have run in the shortage fund and become create a new style by combined with the other UN. If we have combined this program with WFP, World Food Program, they give us the foods, and we have a team and distribution team. So we combine to low cost and to be more effective and to achieve our goals and objectives.
Thanks so much for sharing. For those who aren't familiar, UNRWA faced a several $100 million cut in 2018. This was Jared Kushner's brilliant.
Continue cut, not for 1 year, and to other years. And United Nations United States have a power to other donors to stop the donation. Should not stop the USA only, that influence on the other donor to cut the donation. And UNRWA is the biggest organization in the Palestinian and the Middle East. There are a lot of refugees that depend on healthcare and education and distribution food and UNRWA only.
Right. Thanks for sharing, Taha. And definitely, I'd love to talk to you more outside this call, but I really love to stay updated on what you're working on and let me know how people can help. And it's nice to see you. Calypso, you're next.
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute because there's noise and activity in my house. That's why I had to kind of stop the video. But in any case, I'm in Oxford, quarantining in Oxford. So I guess we're all in the same boat, except more or less. Great fan of Extend, of course, as Sam knows, and well, I'm especially worried about Gaza and what will happen there in the next, few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, Sulu, any thoughts on Gaza?
Thank you, Calypso. Definitely, as I said in our conversation, there is more danger in Gaza than West Bank. Okay, you know what? The best is not even to compare because, yeah, it's a different reality and different situation. The size of the land there and the big population, 2 million people being under the siege for 15 years, 4 wars, and all the situation there and the closing borders, both with Israel and Egypt, it makes Gaza more vulnerable and really dangerous place if the coronavirus spread there. So far, they have just 4 cases reporting, confirmed, but the coming few weeks will be crucial to know what's happening there. And everybody, as you said, really scared what will happen there with the closure. Yeah, and somebody here, I don't know, wrote Gisha. Yeah, Regina, right. Yeah, they do report a lot about the Gaza situation every day. Yeah, it's a great organization as well, actually. Yeah, as you said, we are in the same boat, but in a different living conditions, different situation. And maybe that's the moment for us actually to really come together and live in a different way than we used to. Whether we are in Gaza or in here or in Tel Aviv or in I don't know, Oxford or in Boston or in Spain also. Julia, I didn't know that you're in Boston, so I hope you're in Spain. I hope you are fine there also, because today Spain was #1 actually in the crisis. So, yeah, I think we don't have choice of just losing hope, whether we talk about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict or we talk about the world system, if it's possible to change it or not. I don't think we can lose hope. We don't have the privilege of that. I'm one of the people that always keep hope. I got this from my mom, this optimism. It doesn't have anything to do with the reality, I have to say, but it's in my blood. So nobody knows the best strategy right now, how to get out of this mess. We feel that this is the time for really interior, spiritual, deep work. That's what I know for now. And maybe it sounds too much spirituality, that I know we have a reality also to deal with in daily basis here and elsewhere. But also really, I feel time maybe. I'm a fan of the nature, so I believe my aunt will say, the nature have medicine. So I'm not worried, I have to say, in the long run. Yeah, if we give the nature the place in our life. Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for giving us so much optimism. And I think let's end there. Thanks so much for joining us. For everyone, we'll make sure that these conversations continue. Next Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we'll have another conversation with Breaking the Silence, and we'll continue to make sure that people have ways to stay involved and engaged, and for all of us to remain engaged with the causes we care about. So thanks so much for joining. It was great to see so many faces, friendly faces, and we'll be in touch.